So then the next thing he does is move from the University of Bonn to the University of Leipzig, which was closer to his hometown, because he wanted to study a different field more intensely. Now he wanted to devote himself to philology, meaning Greek, and so his first published book will be on Greek tragedy. And while he's at the University of Leipzig, he discovers Schopenhauer. He discovers Schopenhauer's book, The World as Will. And the reason that this is important for him to read and get the ideas of Schopenhauer is that Schopenhauer marks a huge change in the history of philosophy away from 18th century Enlightenment ideas to 19th century, largely Germanic ones, especially due to Schopenhauer's idea. Because if you go back to the Enlightenment and you look at the key writers there, and if you ask them to somehow sum up the world, they would sum it up as idea. So in other words, behind the world, back in the background, was an idea, the idea. Yes, a divine idea, just as people say intelligent design. Well, that's exactly what it would be, an idea. So it's an idealistic view of philosophy. That it means it puts the idea at the center of philosophy, of the philosophical explanations of this world. But with Schopenhauer, he throws that away and says, no, it's not that idea. It's not like the Platonic idea that stands behind all of what we see. No, that's not the way the world works. What matters is will. Now, if you think through your own understanding of that word, you know that means action. That means power. That is a whole different thing than idea, the ideological approach. And that's what Schopenhauer marks. Schopenhauer marks a move in German philosophy away from Enlightenment ideas of a coherent order behind everything and in the direction of action and will. And that's why that book, The World as Will, matters so much. Schopenhauer was an atheist, and he's going to create a kind of completely secular, metaphysical, and ethical system. And of course, that's exactly what the young Nietzsche needed in 1865. That's exactly what he was looking for. He wanted to build a new metaphysic, but it would be totally secular. There'd be no gods. Schopenhauer, just remember, 1788 to 1860, and a rather dramatic transformation of philosophy and of the way philosophy works. Now, during his time at the University of Leipzig, he is seen to be a brilliant young student, one of the most brilliant that his professor had ever encountered. And right in the middle of this moment, the University of Basel suddenly, because of illness, the professor needs a professor of philology, that means Greek, to come to the University of Basel, and his professor recommends him. He's only 24. He hasn't even finished his PhD. Nietzsche is, due to the recommendation of his professor at the University of Leipzig, he is awarded this job at the University of Basel. There's a picture of the university. It's very, very beautiful. We're sitting right here looking across the Rhine River. As you know, if you've traveled in Switzerland, you know that the Rhine runs through the north of Switzerland, running from the east way, way up high in the mountains, way, way up high, comes down and runs through the north of Switzerland, and then finally at Basel does an exact turn north. So it goes through the city, and then it just turns directly north, and from then on, it goes all the way to the Netherlands. So here is the Rhine River, right here, we're looking at it, and there is the university buildings, the same ones that where Nietzsche taught. And his inaugural lecture is Homer and Classical Philology. Now, here's a decade from 1870 to 1880 when he has this position. He is teaching on a daily basis, publishing many articles. So like professors can do, the easiest thing for you to publish and to build up your resume is to publish smaller works of research, but articles. And so he does that. So there's already a publication trail starting in the 1870s. He is still to this day, I think, the youngest tenured classic professor ever. I think still that's the case. And so this is going to be his base. Now he can go around and go to other places and travel, and he will do that because, of course, there'll be different breaks, academic breaks, and he has friends, and he can go home if he wants to. But this will be his base for the next 10 years. We should just take note of his health problems. Now, he suffers from terrible migraine headaches from his teens, so 12 or 13, we already have mention of them, and some of his school time he has to come home. So we know from the very, very beginning, whatever migraine trouble he had, they could be so severe they would cause him to vomit, and then he would be out of action. He might be out of action for several days. And we don't know whether he had something like maybe a tumor. Maybe he had a benign tumor that was there, always interfering with his calm and his relaxation. But he will have this for the rest of his life. In 1870, that's still 30 years to go. Again and again and again, he was out of action for a day or two, have to cancel a lecture because of these migraines. There were other problems too that were part of it. Bad vision. There were times when he couldn't read, couldn't write, and would hire a stenographer to read out loud and take down his dictation. But it sounds like it was all related to whatever caused these terrible migraine headaches.